Check out the Rugby Rant podcast show.
And welcome, everybody. It's episode 232 of the Rugby Rant podcast show. I'm the big guy, Scott Ferrara. That's Rob the Hammer Hammerschmidt. And with us is Paul Byrdak, who is what's your official title with the Kennel Club? Is it president and CEO? Is it master? Is it the king? What is it?
Master and commander.
Yeah. I'm kind of just there.
Just there. Paul, just there, Byrdak. I mean, that's perfect.
Just there. You gotta have guys in every club that are just there.
Yeah, I mean that's like our buddy Mikey P. Mikey P is
that's right.
Every club you ever played on. I mean, Mikey P is the biggest whore out there. He will whore for any club, and because he's always there. But you know what? If you're not there, you can't play, right? But
exactly.
Thanks, Paul. Appreciate you coming on. Man,
but Paul, don't you do a bit of stuff with Matt Cartwright, the Rugby 100 Club? Do a bit of potting with him?
Yes, I do. I've been on his show for the past month and a half or so, and it's been going great. And that's how we initially met each other, me and you, Rob. So
nice. Yeah, and that's a big show we support. We love Matt, and we've collabed with him so many times we've lost count. So go check out Rugby 100 Club on all platforms as well. Love you, Matt. Hopefully we'll get Matt on here at some point. It's just, that completely West Coast schedule with him is tough sometimes, and then my completely East Coast schedule. So, but we'd love to see it. Anyway, we're back. The big guy's finally back. I don't know how much back I'll be, but I'm back here for this episode because I don't feel like I'm dying, which is quite often. But we had, week 3? Is week 3 of the MLR already? It seems like
it is.
It's flown by fast, guys. I mean, we're going to get into it later on, but just, getting to having our first Sunday night rugby match, and all the hoopla surrounding that. We're going to talk about all that. And just, man, I got to be honest, the ESPN Plus coverage, I think, has been great. It's good to watch the replays because I got to be honest, guys, a 9 o'clock kickoff with a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old is fucking hard to watch, like it's tough. So.
You're just not committed enough, Scott.
Yeah, exactly.
No.
Where's the dedication?
I could talk about a few napkins of some sorts and his need for them, but I'll refrain from doing that. This is the guy who said, I traveled an hour and a half to and from the Rudy games and drove
to watch the live match. To watch a team I was a supporter of. not to watch the friggin' Seawolves. You know what I mean?
And I could see how sitting your ass on the couch would be just as hard.
Yeah, and I also didn't have any kids back then too. And I also had a team, in the MLR, so a lot of things have changed, Rob.
Yeah, true that.
But before we get to the actual rant episode, we're going to hit you with around the pitch. So.
All right, so going over the college scores from this past weekend, we had the UA Wildcats, Arizona beat the Lopes 41-35. We had Cal beat the Toreros 83-5. We had BYU take down Cal Poly 33-19. And then we had the Gales beat the Rams in a blowout 69-10. Not a close game. The Black Knights on the east side beat the Red Wolves 42-17. Navy crushed Mothers 40-11. And then the Running Eagles crushed the Mount 61-5. And the Lions beat the Nittany Lions 31-10. That's the scores from the college weekend.
That's your Sweet 16, baby.
Yeah, this coming weekend should be an awesome slate of games. I don't think there was any surprises in that first round, but we're going to see some really tight games coming up.
Cal Poly losing. I know Patrick Madden would probably be pissed off at that. He's on the line. So.
Yeah, but he's, what's that mean? He's too nice of a guy. He doesn't, he's.
Yeah, he has that California nice thing going.
It's not like pissing off Paul Mullen, dude, where you're going to get slapped across the face.
But yeah, no, we're up for a good. So now we're on to the Elite Eight, 4 on the West, 4 on the East, and then eventually we'll come in for Final Four there. So
yeah, and I'll be in Indy calling some of the games on May 2nd and 3rd. So I'm excited about that, being on the play-by-play. And I know I'm going to also be in Indy for the Women's College Sevens, CRA Women's College Sevens National Championship. They're going to pair Fee and I up at least on Saturday. I'm excited about that. I don't know who Batman is or Robin is out of the two of us. Because, like, he's got more in his utility belt, but Batman, he's kind of shorter.
You're definitely Adam West Batman. You know what I mean? Like,
yes, like, old school.
Yeah. Not like cool. Not even like Michael Keaton, like funny Batman, old school. Like you pretend you're climbing up the building, but you're just
right
on the street there. But Rob, how about you give us your wrap the pitch?
All right. Yeah, I'm excited about this last one. Obviously, the Hounds played last night as of this recording on Sunday. And I was fortunate enough to be in the house last night, and I presented McLean Jones with a little token of appreciation here to recognize the previous week against Anthem. He had his 50th cap with the Hounds. He is the first Hounds player to have played 50 games with the Hounds. And to put that in perspective real quick, like, we're in the 4th season of the Hounds being on the pitch, 16 games in the last 3 seasons. You put that together, that's 48 total games plus a couple of playoff games. You just think about the durability that he has shown over the last, now going into the 4 years, and I sure hope I don't jinx him, but the kind of durability he's shown over the course of his career with the Hounds, it's a really amazing accomplishment. We haven't done a recognition like that. I think the last one was with Butch in his 100th. And by the way, we have another man on the Hounds that should be reaching his 100th MLR cap, but I don't want to give that one away just yet.
Yeah, you know what? And good on him. It's all 50 and with one club, and not unfortunately, but a lot of the people when we did the first 50 for 50, right? That James Dealey was kind of working on, like, these are the first 50 guys to reach 50 caps because of the way the teams were, especially guys who played in the first 2 seasons and then wound up closer to home in their next 3 or 4 seasons, to play like Butcher, to play on Rudy when he was playing in Denver and
right.
Other thing. Mm-hmm. So a lot of guys didn't have the opportunity to do it, but a lot of these new guys do have the opportunity to stay with one team and make it just a little bit more special, in my opinion, to do it with the same team. So
hopefully he's the first of many is all I can say. I'd love to see a bunch of the guys that we currently have do the same thing that Macklin Jones was able to do. So hopefully we keep that trend running.
Yep, absolutely. So my around the pitch is near and dear to my heart. Is this weekend is the Beast of the East tournament, and I was looking at the teams because my UMass Dartmouth Corsairs are there. They're usually in the Social 7 side. So I just went to look to see if the men's were playing this year in the Social 7 side. Come to find out, there are 28 teams in the Social 7 side. 28 in the men's Social 7.
That's a big social side, man.
That's a lot of dudes.
In the women's social,
dude.
I mean, and just as a comparison, the competitive women's is 2, 4, 6, 8, 9, and the men is 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. But again, on the social side, the people who just want to have fun, 28 on the men, 25 on the women's. And on the men's and the women's side, there's A and B squads on some of these teams. Like, for example, the men's Central Connecticut State has an A and B side. My buddies over at SUNY New Paltz have an A and B squad, and Williams College has an A and B squad. And then on the women's side, Colby College has an A and B, and Smith College has an A and B. So I mean, you have enough people where not only you're having 2 social teams, an A and B squad going in on some of these teams. It's just great to see. It's a lot of my old Nerfu stomping ground people up there in England. So it's just one of those tournaments I always check in on, and I just love the fact that there's over 50 teams on the social sides of the 7s going in.
It's awesome to see that much enjoyment in rugby, that much play.
Absolutely, and
yeah,
when I was there,
you hear stuff like that, and it just warms your heart to know that the club rugby scene is still going strong, especially after, that hit in COVID, and we see all these tournaments coming back and see a lot more rugby being played, and people are still engaged. So we love to see it.
Well, that was the thing is I saw a lot of teams are still up and running post-COVID that when I went to school all the way back in the early 2000s that we played against. So it's good to see that they didn't have to die during that COVID. You know, they all kind of maintained or they came back, and now you have a division full of teams still there in the Rugby, so it's really nice. But we are now moving on to the MLR. We're in the middle of the season. It's crazy.
Yeah.
You know, we got our first Sunday night rugby match of the season that was on ESPN2. You know, we had week 2, we had a Friday match. I mean, so we're kind of pushing rugby, you know, in the weekend. You know, I know we say Saturday's a rugby day, but let's be honest. You know, we gotta kind of move outside of that if we want to be a true professional sport, because you know, baseball's played every day. Football is now almost played every day between college and pros. So we have to. This is how we need to compete, especially if we need to have eyes on it. But what we're going to do, guys, is we're going to talk about MLR Week 3. And Rob, what are the 2 questions we're going to answer?
Yeah, well, there are 2 major questions. It's not, I harken back to a couple episodes ago. I think it was the last time the 2 of us were on the show together at one time, and we basically made our preseason predictions, right? And we talked about our top 3 and our bottom 3, and I think we both agreed at least who is in our top and bottom. Where we disagreed was the alignment of those and who was, you know, number 6, who was 5, right? And so when I went back to my notes from that show, I was kind of like, wait, real good question here. Which is more surprising? The Anthem being at the top of the table right now in week 3 with 10 points, or New England being at the bottom of the table with 1 point? So that's one of the big questions. And then, you know, were there any surprises out of week 3, or was this a pretty predictable week?
Sure, we're going to answer that right away. And again, we're talking episode 232, assessment of week 3 in the MLR with our scores there. You know, it's been a good season so far. Again, we're on ESPN Plus. We're doing what we need to do. You know, before we get into it, I'm like, we got to get Cully back on the show. We haven't had Cully on the show in a while. He's in that little clip of the Rant intro there. So we got to reach out to him and get him on at some point.
To who?
John Cullen.
Oh, yeah. You know where he is right now?
No, I do not. Where is he?
He is actually coaching the Zoomies.
Oh, really?
Air Force Academy, yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah,
so we
he's
should
out,
definitely have him on and talk about that.
Yep.
I mean, but also talk about, like, you know, since, you know, he's out of the MLR, what he thinks the league is in. But all right, so you want to go through the matches, or do you want to go through the questions first, Rob?
No, let's tackle the questions. Let's tackle the questions.
All right, so give us the first question, and we'll let Paul have the first answer.
Oh, Paul's going to tap it, huh? Nice.
Yep.
Which is more surprising? Anthem at 10 points at the top of the table, or New England with 1 point being at the bottom of the table?
Personally, I'm more shocked by the Free Jacks being at the bottom. I expected Anthem to be better than they were last year, but obviously I don't think any of us saw what they're doing happen. But yeah, the Free Jacks are more surprising. They're 3-time defending champs. They've returned a decent amount of their squad. It wasn't their whole squad or anything, but it was a decent amount. And they're just 3-time champions. You couldn't expect them to not be at least an average team. But right now, they don't even look like they're average. They look like they might end up where they currently are in last place this season, which is mind-blowing to me.
I mean, here's the one thing. The one thing I'll say is, you know, Anthem has a game in hand on the Free Jacks too, so you have to take that into account.
Yeah,
Free have only played the 2 games, whereas Anthem has played the 3. So, you know, it's a little bit different. I think in the next couple of weeks, maybe you'll see a little bit of a shift. But I think the biggest thing, Rob, is to me, I thought Anthem being at the top of the table is more surprising. But I think the biggest surprise is the point differential for the Free Jacks, because, you know, that the close game they just recently lost in week 3, you know, by a missed conversion, essentially, you know, not a big deal. But the drubbing that the Legion gave them is crazy. And maybe it's I don't know. It's to me it was so unlike the Free Jacks, and maybe it was just okay. First game jitters, whatever. It's a team. It's a little bit of a new team. This, that, and the other thing. But yeah, I don't know. To me, Anthem being top of the table is more surprising. But that point differential, that drubbing by California Legion.
Well, and the interesting thing, Scott, is I almost feel like I contradicted myself, which, according to you, is not uncommon. But I talked about the fact that last season the Free Jacks, I think, in the first 5 games were they 2-3 or 3-2, something like that. So they weren't the championship caliber team at that time. 5 games in, about a third into the season, that we would have expected. And that was a team that turned over a pretty consistent roster. So it took them a little time to get warmed up. They had a new coach, but they had a lot of the same players. That being said, this year, I think we've seen, Ryan's at the helm for his second year. Ryan Martin, head coach of the Free Jacks, and they turned over probably the highest number of players from last year to this year, plus going out to yeah, that was in Torero, wasn't it, in week 2?
Yes.
I think so.
Yes,
going out there, cross country, the first week, kind of a lot of our players adjusting, not a lot of time in preseason spent, banging heads with an opposition. You're running up against each other. I don't think we should have been shocked by where they're at. But I never expected the Anthem to be where they're at. I predicted that the Anthem would be a couple weeks before they get their first win, and look at them. They're 2-1 with, what is it? 10. Show that table up there, Scott. Do we have a image of the table there? That's not it. There we go. Right there, tied with 10 points in the Chicago Hounds. So, I didn't expect it, but hey, good on them. Good on Kuka. They're doing things well out there, and they finally are on pace.
I mean, here's the thing. You saw the lack of offensive output for the Free Jacks against Cal. We're calling Cal now. The red cow, not the blue cow, the red cow. And then they come into this game against the OGs, and both teams seem to only kind of score in the first half. And I know they both got a try right early in the second half, but after the 50-minute mark, I mean, you're talking about 30 minutes of no scoring at all.
Yeah.
So is that a lack of offense, or is that both teams putting on great defensive effort? And my question is, when you put the New England's, that 30 minutes of scoreless play from New England on top of their game against the Legion, to me that tends to say there's a lack of offense and not necessarily the best defensive play going from their opposition. And again, with only 2 games, how do we call that a pattern? But you want to dissect it a little more.
I'd be careful about talking about patterns, but let me ask you this, Scott. I have not been to Fort Quincy yet. You have, I believe, correct?
Yeah.
Is that a smaller pitch?
I don't think, not by the standard of where people go, oh, that pitch isn't regulation. Where they go, oh, it's only a football sized pitch. No, it's not
like
it's not the smallest.
Starfire Zone is a bit smaller pitch.
Yeah. No, it's not it's not quite Starfire, but at least a little bit.
Because that could be an answer to your question. Smaller pitch size, not quite as expansive as if you're going to a big regulation international size pitch like what's in SeatGeek.
I know, but if you're going to carry the big balls that all these New England fans carry about how the OGs stole their colors, I don't understand, because the OGs were in the league first. But you can't then put out that effort. And I'm not saying losing or not tying because you missed one conversion, but you should have won by 50 if you're going to be that arrogant about it. You know what I mean?
And they definitely should have won. Like, if they want to be something, they need to win them. They need to win week 3, because this is a shortened season, obviously, only 10 games.
Yeah.
Starting 0-3 is not a good look. So, and they play arguably the best team in the league next week in Nashville. So we'll see what happens, but they're quickly going down a slippery slope.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I agree. Do you want to talk about this game, or do we want to talk about?
Let's answer the second question first, and then we'll kind of.
Okay.
Yeah, let's answer the second question, and then we'll kind of go back to it.
Yeah. So my second question was: there anything else that surprised either one of you in week 3?
The poor officiating of the Seattle game is what I'd say surprised me, unfortunately.
I don't like to necessarily talk about poor officiating or great officiating, but I do have to say the commentary I heard from fans wasn't just like, oh, this one play was bad. It was like the whole game was a miscommunication of errors, and how are you allowing a challenge when it's an unchallengeable play, where in the NFL, if they throw the challenge flag and you're not allowed to challenge the play, they just pick up the flag. You don't lose it because it was unchallengeable anyway. So there's some questions around that rule. There's some questions around whether or not Seattle grounded a ball, right? So
there were questions about whether or not Anthem knocked a ball on. I don't know if the Sirs knew what a knock was. To be like, there were moments in that game where I didn't know if the Sirs knew rugby as well as I think they should. It was rough to watch.
And I heard that from multiple fans, not just Paul. So when you're hearing it from multiple fans, you're kind of like, again, is that not that I would say, it's. I think it's something that they're going to have to look at specifically for that match and what was going on with it.
It's interesting. You guys have talked about the officiating. I don't know whether it's just me having been behind the whistle, and granted another sport, but having been behind the whistle, I'm a little bit less critical unless the Hounds are playing. But I think for me, perhaps the lack of the judiciousness from which teams are challenging plays, like we saw, I think both Seattle and Anthem lost. I mean, they used up both of their challenges
in the first half.
But again, Seattle, or was it the Seattle challenge? Losing a challenge on a play that you couldn't challenge doesn't make sense. Like,
yes,
So again, I think the third question is: everybody clear on the rules of what you can challenge, and was it? The other question I have was it not? They didn't seem to explain that it wasn't challengeable because it was past the 2-phase thing, but they did not say it. So why wasn't it challengeable? And then why can't they keep that challenge?
The ref did say right after the challenge was called that it was an unchallengeable call because it was prior to 2 phases of the ball of the call, and that's what the rule is. If it's 2 phases prior to the play, it's challengeable. And the Sir came out on the pitch and said that it was prior to the 2 phases and that they had lost their challenge. And I was shocked by that result. So,
but I'm going to be honest. It's not the fact that a team doesn't know that. It doesn't surprise me either. If you go back to that playoff game in SeatGeek Stadium between the Hounds and Old Glory, there was some yellow cards going on and some other stuff going on at the end in the last 10 or so minutes. And if you remember, Koi Nelligan got injured. He was the substitute hooker, and the other hooker had a yellow, and they actually I think they brought Izakaro in, and he hooked or they slid over Calaxico Martinez, and then something like that. But they brought it back in, and the Hounds were upset. I remember being on the sideline, watching them piss. They're like, you can't do that. You can't bring a guy in. And so at any rate, and later on, the league kind of acknowledged it. That there was an error made. I just think there are so many intricacies in the way some of these things are done that it's hard for teams and officials to keep track of them, and they don't have. You remember, like the NFL officials they're not full time yet, are they?
I'd be surprised if they were.
Yeah, I don't know if they're necessarily full time, but they also are. Their crews don't change. So, for example, the whole crew crews a game. So you're talking about
Right.
one crew who's going to crew 16 games together in a whole season,
Right.
and maybe beyond that too. Versus what MLR has been doing is kind of mixing and matching and trying to get people time in the middle to get them more. So
right.
and then depending on where people live and everything, they rotate a little more. So I wonder if that adds to some of. I wouldn't say but just one weekend you've got the flag, one weekend you're in the middle. You're over here, you're over there. I think it does need to be tightened up a little bit. And to be honest, Rob, Walter Rabolo played all three positions in the front row. I think every front row player should be able to play all three. Stop being a bitch. Honestly, I'll put it this way. And you want to talk in the NFL, you got guys who can play center, guard, and tackle, right? So when somebody gets injured, they're sliding somebody in who could safely play the position. So stop being a bitch and learn an extra position, guys. That's called cross training. I have to do it in my job as an accountant and cross train with everybody else. When the lady breaks her leg or tears her ACL and she can't calculate the accounts payable, I got to step in. I can't just not pay people.
Listen, next time Paul Mullen rolls into town, I'll remind him that you told him not to be a bitch.
I will tell him not to. You can tell him that, and he'll get another yellow card because he got one last week. So
after he slaps a smile off your face,
But my point being is we're now this is off topic, but we're now in the 2026 where guys, you want to have athletic front rows, but you're like, oh, I can't play hooker. I could see, I suck at lineouts, but you know what? That is a little bit more technical. You do not get more practice. But if you played prop in the friggin' scrum, you can play hooker. Don't be a bitch.
There you go. That's the
Some
lesson.
guys
for
don't
me.
have the
Don't be a
leg
bitch.
flexibility that you need. That's the problem. Some guys can't move their leg enough.
Yeah, but if we're having these athletic props, which is what we've turned to from having these big fat pile props to these athletic props, you should have the leg flexibility at that point, especially playing professional rugby. We're not talking about Division 4 social sides here like me.
That's true.
My boots. I have to have somebody else lace up my boots because I can't bend over.
And fans, that's why they call this the Rugby Rant. So let's get back to Tuscany. Let's talk about the slate of games. Obviously, Friday night, the first game, Old Glory DC versus New England. Tight affair. It's a 2-point game. I love seeing the battle for the supremacy for the red, white, and blue to be won by Old Glory for sure. but what was your assessment of the game?
I don't know. It just seemed the question is the last 30 minutes. Was it OGs and New England having this fierce defensive battle? Or was it them just trying to feel each other out on their own offensive side and maybe not clicking on that end? It seemed like a little bit of both. There were some times where all of a sudden the defensive backlines were just boom, hitting the gain line, making sure the offense was going backwards, making sure they were getting in some passing lanes. And this was on both sides, but it wasn't consistent enough either. So it was just, to me, it was like a weird, I don't know. There was like this upside down of 30 minutes of rugby there. But
to me, it kind of end of that match kind of looked like both teams were looking for the other team to make a mistake. The first 50, 60 minutes, it looked like they were playing hard. And then the last 20 to 30 minutes, the breakaway that almost won the game for the Free Jacks, it looked like they were looking for that kind of an opportunity. And those opportunities just didn't come except for that one, and that didn't end how the Free Jacks wanted it to. So that's my opinion. It just both teams were waiting for the other team to mess up.
I mean, it's almost like the both teams were playing not to lose.
Exactly.
To win. We've talked about that as a strategy sometimes.
It was kind of funny. You mentioned that, Paul, because one of the notes I made, and there were several things that I noticed throughout the game, but one of them is the Old Glory discipline in the last 15 to 20 minutes. The Free Jacks were camped out in their half for at least 15 minutes. And Old Glory was content to play solid defense and kind of, they didn't put that pressure defense on. They were happy to hold the line, happy to allow if the Free Jacks an opportunity to make a mistake. But I thought it was brilliant that they were up by 2 at that point. It was 21-19, the final score. That was the line at the time. And they didn't commit a penalty which most teams are apt to do when they're in their, they're defending their half for that long of time. They make a penalty. They put their hands in the ruck. Somebody does something really stupid, and boom, you got a guy like, who's a New England fly half. What's his? Who's the new kid? The fly half.
Is that Lamont?
I've forgotten who they got. Oh no! It
Hodgson.
was Hodgson. Yeah, Hodgson, Joel Hodgson. My bad. I should have known that from Utah. With a guy like Hodgson, who is as deadly and accurate as he is with this boot to the sticks, they did a really good job. Colin Gross, unbelievable try saver there at the end.
Definitely.
That was brilliant. And the guy I thought who played out of his skin subtly was Robertson. Just control the flow of the game. I also love his confidence under pressure. The Free Jacks were coming up with a hard rush defense in a number of situations. And, he's back near his 22 and he just, calmly puts the ball, back into the, into the defensive territory. The Free Jacks and forces them to run back into the half. Just really well done.
You know what it was is it wasn't it didn't have to be, he wasn't kicking for, like, to me, he wasn't kicking for territory on counterattack. He was kicking to get some air hang time for his guys to get there to make a solid tackle, not necessarily compete for the ball. And it was more of a conservative defensive game plan, like you talk about them not committing the penalties, because they didn't commit that many guys to a breakdown. Like they didn't commit to try their hand at getting a jackal.
Right.
I get, in my head, because their defensive line was playing so well. So why commit men to the, you're up by 2. So I commit to a jackal where you do have the possibility of committing that penalty in range of Hodgson, who can kick that.
Right.
So I think it was, we talk about game plans. I wonder if that necessarily wasn't a game plan, but that was an adjustment somebody made on the field. Said, hey, whoever's copying the defense at that point is saying, let's not commit as many players to that breakdown. Once it's down, let's just continue on with the next phase.
Yeah. And I think the Free Jacks execution will improve. I mean, that last play that you were talking about, Paul, just a lack of the lack of ability to execute at that pressure part of the game, critical. I think that's going to come around because we don't have much of it. We didn't have much of a preseason. Those little kinks haven't had a chance to work themselves out and create that sort of timing that needs to be created. But, there's a pretty costly error, again, considering, as you said, now we're 20% in, one fifth of the way into the season.
I mean, if you look at, I think the biggest thing, both teams tackle success over 80% and OG's nearing 90%. Other than that, on the attacking side, besides defenders beaten, which was relatively the same, the Free Jacks carried the day on offensive statistics. Over 400 more carry meters, over 40, almost 40 more carries. Over 130 more meters made. 6 more clean breaks, and this is crazy. Almost 100. It was 99 more passes the Free Jacks made than OGs on attack.
Damn.
Huh.
And you talk about the territory and possession was all in favor of the Free Jacks. So again, I think having the score line that was there, OGs decided, hey, this is the way we're going to play defense, and it worked out. And the game-saving tackle doesn't help. That helps out a lot. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's interesting as we talk about that, and you talked about defense. I was talking with, who the heck was I talking with? Somebody from the. Oh, I know it. It was Harley Wheeler. We have an interview coming up with Harley Wheeler, a run, pass, or kick coming up here. Should be released within the next week or so. At any rate, one of the things Harley said, and we talked about, is how much time they spent on tackling over the course of the preseason. He said it's a part of almost every training session. It's a critical piece. So clearly Simon Cross has put a priority on tackling, on being smart at the breakdown, and just holding that line well and being able to defend your defend your territory and being comfortable with doing so. And guys, I got to tell you, in a tight game in the playoffs, that could be the difference between, moving on to the next round and not.
That's for sure.
Absolutely. Yep. So let's move on to the next match. Anthem 34, Seattle Seawolves 25. Again, this one, it was just, to me, Anthem kind of held the day. Luke Carty converting all 4 of their tries. I think, again, it just came down to Anthem had a little more juice, in my opinion.
Carty was 6 for 6 on the team, man. That's a good day.
Yeah, he had 2 penalties for 4. Yeah, that was a great day. But Kotzer had, went 3 for 3, and then when Mark Meta came in, he drilled 1 for a conversion. So, everybody, I think, all the kickers were 100%. So, for both sides, it was just the opportunities.
From just a watching point of view, I completely thought that Seattle outplayed Anthem. I don't know what the actual stats are. I didn't check them out, but watching the game itself, Seattle definitely looked like the stronger team. They did make mistakes because they were knocking the ball on all over the second half. They were making drawing penalties way too frequently, and they kind of beat themselves. And the refs, we talked about that earlier, so I'm not even going to bring that up. But yeah, didn't help.
If you look at
Paul, look at the statistics, Scott. No, Scott, I'm going to add, because I know you got the statistics up. I haven't pulled them up on my phone, but I was looking at them earlier in prepping for the show, and I was shocked when I went and jumped on the statistics that basically Seattle owned the Anthem in offensive statistics. I think they won every offensive battle, right?
Except for defenders beaten. Yes,
right. The lack of execution, and right
well,
there,
it comes down to discipline.
Minute mark.
Exactly.
The discipline.
And penalties. Yep.
Yeah. So penalties. So Seattle had more penalties conceded and 2 yellow cards. So that means you have 20 minutes of an extra man. So that right there means the Anthem defense is going to be a little better. And when you look at the defensive statistics, Anthem had more tackles made and their tackle success percentage was higher. And you go back to the turnovers, Anthem created 2 more turnovers than Seattle did. So again, that's most likely during those times when, especially that tackle rate's going to increase when Seattle's a man down, because once you're playing shorthanded that way, most likely your opposition is going to make really good tackles.
How about the rookies for the Anthem? Right, Campbell Robb,
yep,
and Will Sherman.
It looked good.
Scoring a try in that match. Both have 2 tries on the season in 3 games. Have we seen a season? And I guys, it's early. I'm not gonna, I'm not giving a hot take here. Okay, I hope I'm not. But I think when in seasons past after the draft, we gotten used to or comfortable with saying, okay, there might be 1, maybe 2 rookies that stand out that we look to and say, okay, they're rookie of the year contenders, right? It's between 1, maybe 2 guys. And in some cases, we've seen seasons where it's a runaway by 1 player, right? But I think we've seen, and this year is proving it to be so, there are some rookies that are really putting their hand up for rookie of the year honors, at least early on, right? You got Will Sherman, you got Campbell Robb, you got Storties from last year, who's Pittman, who's playing very, very well. So I love seeing that.
It's great seeing the youth excel. You're completely right, Rob. If with the rookies doing well, it means a lot for the next generations to come and stuff. So yeah, seeing rookies do well is fantastic.
And it's because they're getting opportunities, right? With more American slots available, you have to give them their due, give them their opportunities. So it's really good to see.
Yeah, again, I think it just came down to discipline or lack thereof for Seattle, unfortunately. You have two old guys in the room, and Martin the one cards, which that shouldn't be. Those guys know better.
Right. And let's not forget, down by 3, right? Mm-hmm. 61 minutes, I think, into the match. Mm-hmm. And the high clean out negates a try.
Yeah.
Right. So that changes the complexity of the game. It goes right along with what you said earlier, just the execution piece. Just in that particular case, execution and at the point of the breakdown, really, making those small errors that ultimately lead to struggles on the scoreboard.
Mm-hmm. All right, and then we get to our Sunday night match, Chicago, California.
Yeah, let me ask you this: I was in stadium, and Paul, you were in stadium.
Yes, sir.
Right. So Scott, you were watching at home,
mm-hmm.
right? Was the audio good the whole way through the game?
For me, the audio was good, but I had heard other people it wasn't. So I wonder if it was. So earlier in the day, for me in particular, we had our Wi-Fi go out for a little bit, like a Verizon outage. So I wonder if some people who were having issues were all in the same area, and maybe they were having cable issues. Because for me, it was fine. But again, earlier in the day around noon, we lost Wi-Fi for about an hour for an outage. So I wonder if it was just a certain segment of people. Because for me,
I don't remember where I read it. It was on X, I believe, so Twitter. Either ESPN or MLR's official account posted that there was issues with one of the booths and that they'd have to switch over to a different booth at the Homes game. Right,
because I spoke with my good buddy Ben Holden, was down there with Brianna Kim, and then Alex Corbisiero was down. We were all underneath the stadium at the conclusion of the game, and we were chatting. So shout out to those guys. And they were saying comms were down. They actually couldn't hear one another through the first half of the game, so it was creating some issues. So I just didn't know if that materialized itself on the broadcast,
Not
or
really.
if those pros just did pro things.
I mean, let's be honest. Ben likes to hear himself talk anyway. So how much, how much Brianna Kim got to say? Who really knows? No, I'm just joking.
Benny, I didn't say that.
He calls a Michigan game and they lose every fucking time, Ben. So stop calling them Michigan, because every time you call them, they fucking lose. But no, it was fine as far as I'm concerned. I didn't hear any. Yeah, I didn't hear anything that was that would have made it seem like it was
okay. So. Yeah, I don't know about you, Paul. It's tough for me when I'm in stadium to actually, it's almost like I have to rewatch the game to really get a pulse or a beat on it, because I'm so committed emotionally to what's going on that I kind of lose sight of the big picture. So I don't know how you are, but what were your thoughts on the game? You were in stadium.
I don't know. The Hounds played better, don't get me wrong, but I think it had a lot to do with San Diego's also lack of discipline, lack of just communication. I don't know if it was communication issues or if it was just lack of doing it together kind of thing. Because California, I was about to say San Diego, California, they just couldn't get their things going. It was too many tip balls, too many drop balls. The rain didn't help them. They didn't look like they were ready to play in water. So that didn't help, obviously. The Hounds looked much better in the conditions that they were playing in. So that had a lot to play with the game. Like you said, I don't get a full scope of the game because I didn't watch it on TV yet, but I plan on it. But that's from the stadium point of view. That's what I'd have to say about it.
Well, it seemed to me sorry, Rob, but it seemed to me like I wouldn't necessarily. It looked like California's set piece was a little bit better. Scrums were about the same, but the lineouts, I think they went 10 for 10 on their lineouts, which it's always good when you're 100%. But they missed a lot of tackles, and I think they almost had double the. I gotta go click the stat line here, but I think they had almost double the missed tackles that Chicago had. That's where I think their lack of discipline wasn't tackling, which is funny because in the game before we're talking about how great the tackling was. So
could have to do with the conditions.
Yeah, and the wet conditions didn't help. I mean, it's just kind of one of those things where you're going to lose grip on a kit.
Exactly.
And that's what I was going to say. It's kind of funny. Earlier in the day, I sent a message to forwards coach Todd Dammers. I said, hey, the weather is not looking good. And while I know that hurts getting people into the stadium and asses in seats, I said, and it's no fun to watch when you're in stadium. I got to say, I said, I think that plays to the Hounds' favor and it's going to be a good forward day. And he said, yeah, you're absolutely right, mate. We're ready to get our gritty on and do really good things, especially with the forwards. And I think that was the difference. If you look at the tries scored by the Hounds, of the 8 tries, 6 of the 8 were scored by forwards. right? And so you just saw how clinical their forwards were. They weren't quite as California did a really nice job in the set piece. I think the only part of the forward game that really had it clicking over and above California was the mauls. They were 100%. The Hounds were 100% in the mauls. But it was a really closely contested forward match. I just think the key was the forwards from the Hounds offloading. They were clinical at the breakdown. I thought they played a really pretty clean game overall, and that was a difference.
I think the Hounds have the best front five in the league. I know that might be biased. I'm a Hounds fan. Might have something to do with that. But the talent that the front five has in Chicago is crazy.
Well, I wouldn't dispute that right now. Like after week 3, I wouldn't dispute it.
Yeah, that and the back three. I mean, Lucas Rumball had 2 this week. Last week it was Mason, Flesh, and then you've got McLean Jones, who is just making tackles all over the place. I mean, they're as complete a back row as any one of these 6 teams can put together. It was pretty great. I'm interested. I'm going to throw something out there. I'm going to throw a take out there. I don't know that it's all that hot, but it's a take. And I'm interested, Paul, in seeing Scott's reaction to this take, because I think I know what it's going to be.
I think I know where you're going.
I think I can write it down on a card. The guy who I thought played really, really well, and it was a little bit under the radar, if that's possible for him, was Ruben DeHaas.
Yeah, I knew you were going to say it.
Yeah. I thought Ruben really had a really pretty clean game. As I watched the game, he was getting to the rucks pretty clean, directing and marshaling his forwards around the pitch very well. I thought he played handling the ball for the conditions. That's always a tough thing for scrum halves, and I thought he did a really, really masterful job. And then the other area is his kicks in those conditions were really where they needed to be, in that 15-meter channel in many cases with those box kicks. They weren't put too far that chase couldn't put pressure on, that were they always going up in the air and contesting? No, but they were making those tackles once a player came down.
You know what I mean? You didn't,
exactly.
Like we talked about in the previous matches, like with OGs, did you need to contest it in the air or just make a good defensive effort tackling to hold those meters you gained? You know what I mean? So again, it was having the lead. It kind of helps you set that tone of, okay,
yeah,
I can make this kick and know that the guys that are chasing it know. Listen, just make a solid tackle and we'll be in the clear.
Another guy I want to mention, Brock Webster. Brock Webster, I think he's a man on a mission. That kid he's very good. He got bloodied up during the game and he just kept going hard, and kid's got talent, kid's got grit. He's Chicago.
Yeah, definitely. For sure. I've had a chance to just chat with him real briefly a couple times, and I'm always amazed at how tiny guys like him are. Like, I mean, I'm not a huge man by any stretch of the imagination, but 6'1", but like some of those guys, those fullbacks, so quick, so unbelievably quick, but somewhat diminutive. Yet he was running into contact like he was twice his size. So I agree. I think so too. So here's my question, Paul. I'm interested in getting your feedback on this one. And Scott, by the way, I'd be curious as your perspective as a neutral observer.
Thank you, Rob.
You can join the show. It's okay. But
I only help create.
Again, I know it's early. We just completed week 3, but was this a statement game by the Hounds? Putting 48 points on the team of the week from last week, who put the screws to the Free Jacks.
Yes, I don't know if you guys saw it, but on MLR Weekly, I forget the guy's name, but they were saying that they'd take Legion to win that game, and I can almost guarantee Hounds players saw that video, and Hounds players were not happy about that video. So yeah, I would definitely say statement win, especially with the Legion beating the Free Jacks 43-5 just last week, putting up, I think it's the most points on the season prior to yesterday. So yeah, it was big time statement win.
Yeah, was that Mark Fitzpatrick that made that comment? I believe it's Mark Fitzpatrick, right? Yeah.
I wouldn't say it was a statement win not in the sense like I think what Paul, like if you were to take what Paul said, is like they use it as bulletin board material to win the game. But to me, Legion never travels well either. Like, and that's not saying that they're not a great team and that the Hounds didn't beat them in just about every facet of that game. But statistically, we always know Legion, every time they got to travel, they never play their best rugby for some reason.
But is this really
for
a
all 10 of
Legion?
their games
Is
this
this
year,
a
though? That's the
Legion
problem.
team or is this an LA team? Because you got Stephen
so
Hoyle.
now it's an LA
you got
team.
Bertrand.
Every West, the a million teams they've had in California never travel well.
Well, I don't know. Last year at home at SeaTac Stadium, LA just cut the Hounds to ribbons in like one of the finals weeks, and it was Bertrand was just lighting them up.
Yeah, but also
with fast delivery, fast attack. Billy Meeks,
the final weeks, attritions hit people. How many times? Who's injured? Who's not injured? But I don't think it's, to me, it's not a statement when saying like stamping your name on the season versus
it's too
internally. Internally, it was a statement when we're going to take that and use it as bulletin board material. They're not better than us. You know what I mean? So I think, like, to me, when you use the term statement win, it's like we put the stamp on our season. We're going to be maybe not top of the table, but top 2, top 3 definitely because of this game. I just think it's a little too early, and you're playing a California team who's away.
I want to add, Legion might not travel well, but the championship's not in California, so that's another good thing for us.
Well, listen, I'm just saying, as a team, as a fan of a team who actually won a shield, so I could say that, unlike the San Diego fans. So,
where are they?
Yeah.
So, all right, so let's move into week 4 a little bit because I'm curious. All right, 3 games on Saturday night, which is the 18th at 3:00 or Saturday afternoon. Anthem versus OGs. It is at Veterans Memorial? Is that what it's called?
I forgot the name of it.
American Legion Memorial is what it's called. American Legion Memorial. Sunday, of course, at 3:00 in Nashville at Geodis Park. The Hounds play the Free Jacks. And then the Sunday night game, 7:00, by all accounts, California Legion play host to Seattle. And I don't know which of the 5 venues that's at. I didn't do that much homework on that one. So let's run down the slate of games.
I know it's not at Torero. That's all I know because I don't play there.
Yeah, it's not at Torero. So, Scott, I'm going to start with you.
Sure.
Anthem versus OGs, who you got?
I think, you have to go with Anthem right now, even just despite them having the loss. OG's win was tight. OG's win was predicated on New England missing a conversion to not tie it up and then nothing happening in the last 30 minutes. We've seen Anthem score throughout games. So I'm going to have to go with Anthem on this one, just by what we've seen the past few weeks.
Paul?
He put it pretty easily. They're hot. They're on a roll. But I will add, I think they win by at least two scores. Not necessarily 2 tries, but at least 2 scores.
Yeah, I think it's going to be not as tight as the Free Jacks match.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to go, you're both wrong, and I'm going to tell you why you're both wrong. I'm going with the OGs. Discipline and defense. Double Ds. Okay, we know we all like to see double Ds, discipline and defense. And I just think that, like if you remember, was it the first week Cardi got a yellow card? They've had a little bit of discipline issues, and I think the OGs can use these 2
well, I think this will answer
to win.
Maybe that answers my question from when we talked about week 3. Was it a lack of offensive effort in the last 30 minutes of that OG's Free Jacks match, or was it a really concerted defensive effort from both teams? And maybe this is where OG will answer that question.
I think, I think it's the latter in my opinion. But anyway,
we'll find out this weekend.
We will. That's why they play the game. All right. What about Sunday afternoon game? Hounds home game in Nashville. I'll be there. Paul will be there. Yeah, don't forget, everybody. come down to the Lost Patty Irish Pub. We're going to be doing a pod with Matt Cartwright at 7:00. The drinks, the specials, 10% is going to local rugby. So,
and 9% already goes to local rugby, just to throw that in there.
Oh, perfect. Good to know. Good to know. So
the owner of the bar is a big rugby guy, and he already donates 9% of all.
So then we're doubling
proceeds
that
to
up.
local rugby.
We're doubling
Yeah,
that
exactly.
up.
That's awesome. And from what I understand, we're going to have a celebrity owner in the house. I'm hearing, Phil Groves is talking about coming in. So
He's gonna wear that hat that I don't like.
he is. Phil wears a hat everywhere.
I can't stand it, but it works.
Listen,
Yeah,
I don't want to. Yeah, but so
as an aside, by the way, Phil right now is a broken foot. How he broke his foot?
You told me, and I forgot now.
He broke his foot doing Masters wrestling. The guy not only plays rugby, but then he does Masters, like freestyle Masters wrestling.
Good for him. That's awesome.
Yeah. He's a dude. Phil Groves is a freaking dude.
Heck yeah.
Shout
out.
out.
Let's get to my score prediction.
All right.
New England wins by about 70 points here. This is the typical Robert. He loves a team trap where they've played well against a great San Diego Legion team, and then they come and shit the bed. No, I'm joking. So honestly, I think this is going to be a tight game. While it is a quote unquote Chicago home game, and the Chicago Hounds, had a lot of tickets as far as I know. I still think you're playing on a pitch you're not used to. You're playing in there's something about the juice of knowing the stadium and being in the bowels of the stadium, like Rob was the other day, like that give you that juice. So I think Chicago's going to win? Yes, but I think it's going to be tight, just like the Free Jacks played OGs last week.
Paul, who do you got?
I completely agree. I think it comes out of a last minute try or last minute drop kick or last minute some sort of score at the last minute or a big last minute stand on defense. One of the two. I think it comes down to the wire. I think it makes us Hounds fans a lot more nervous than we want it to. So.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's going to be a tighter game. I got to root for the boys, but I think it's going to be a tighter game. And Scott, I think you hit the nail on the head. A little different venue. The Hounds the boys do draw a lot of juice from being in Dogtown. I know there's crappy conditions last night. The crowd wasn't as big as what they're accustomed to, but they do feed off all the people in the stadium. They love the fans.
But the crappy conditions is part of. And the crappy conditions is part of their home arena. Like, New York also always had the thing where every time New York started a season, it snowed. They made sure that the boys were shoveling the pitch. They weren't letting maintenance workers do it because that's our home ground. So if we're gonna play in the Northeast or we're gonna play in the Midwest like you guys do, you got to own those conditions. You can't just say, "Oh, conditions shit." No, you got to practice in those conditions. You got to know how to play in those conditions. So I think that's part of it. And again. In Nashville, if for some reason the weather turns out to be shit, which I know it doesn't normally happen at this juncture in the year, it could wreak havoc on both teams. So
I think that would play the Chicago hands. I think that helps us out more than it helps New England out because we've seen it in the season.
Mm-hmm. All right.
All right. So we agree on that one. All right. What about California Legion playing host to Seattle? Who you guys got? Paul, start with you.
Do we know where that game's at?
Somewhere in California, Paul.
It's in California. I'm going to go Seattle. I think California losing it against the Hounds is going to deflate their egos, deflate their self-esteem, their confidence, all that stuff. I think they're going to head into next week a lot more injured. And Poitevin being hurt is going to be a very big injury for them. I think Seattle wins by a couple of tries. I think they fix their mistakes. I think they play more disciplined. I think they play with more chemistry. I think they take that game pretty handily.
I mean, I agree.
Scott?
If they can keep up with the discipline and not get those, they got 2 yellows with 2 guys who should know better. Then yes, I think they will play. They'll play a little bit better again. I think California, despite their big win against New England, being in Torero for that, having the juice for that game, is one thing. But now you're not playing in Torero again. There's no Legionnaires there. And you're playing a team in Seattle who, again, has a little more tight knit. They went to South Africa for their camp and the whole 9 yards. So I think Seattle wins. I don't know if it'll be a squeaker though. It all depends on what Seattle wants to do discipline.
All right, so you guys are locked in on Seattle, as it seems. I'm going to respectfully disagree. I'm going with the California Legion, and here's why you're wrong. First of all, they're playing in L.A., just looking at it, Wallace Annenberg Stadium, so they're playing in L.A. I think the Legionnaires are going to travel up there, at least the tried and true, I know.
In the stands.
But the biggest reason is because of the weather and the conditions are going to play to that faster style tempo that the Legion want to play. Stephen Hoyle's team wants to play fast. Bertrand loves to play fast. You watched that game 2 games ago when they put up, 35-5 on the Free Jacks?
If I'm not mistaken.
43-5, yeah. Bertrand was looking to quick tap every single time he had the opportunity for a penalty, was behind the mark. He was quick with that ball. He was looking to snipe off, that A gap. And he is, he's a fun scrum half to watch, and he plays the tempo and the style that they want to play at, that Stephen Hoyles wants to play at. And I think that they're going to the rest of the team is going to start to get into that fitness level now where they're going to be able to keep up with that pace of play.
Okay, so we'll agree to disagree, and we'll see who's right next week. But guys, I think we dissected week 3 enough, and we talked about week 4 enough, and we'll go to see who's going to be right, who's going to be wrong. Unfortunately, no more pick'em with Super Brew, which blows. But you guys can check out our version of Fantasy MLR Rugby. There'll be links in the description. Go check it out. Guys, it's been a great episode 332, going after MLR week 3. I'm the big guy, Scott Ferrara. That's Rob the Hammer Hammerschmidt for Paul Byrdak.
And we just bled the new guy.
Yeah, it's great. Listen, we bleed more guys than USA Rugby does before fucking. So, how do you like that? But guys, thank you very much for watching and listening, and we'll see you all next week.